Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast presented by Cisco. 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and joining me is 49ers team reporter Lindsay Polares and special guest Arizona Cardinals team reporter Dani Sureck. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on. It's nice to know that we can still be friendly, even though we are divisional opponents and enemies, some might think.
Frenemies for purposes of
Frenemies, yes.
For the podcast, we're frenemies, but it's true. We've got a big-time divisional matchup just days away. So let's start with the latest injury updates. Lindsay, how are the key injured players, especially Fred Warner and George Kittle, progressing so far?
So no secret, the 49ers have been bit by the injury bug pretty early this season. And that injury list is not looking fantastic as of Thursday. So we had wide receiver Chris Conley, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Jacob Cowing, Demetrius Flanagan Fowle, Dieter Gross-Matos all not participate in Thursday's practice. I will say nobody hit the panic button yet. The final injury report does come out today, and we'll get to hear from head coach Kyle Shanahan. And we'll see what those players are entering the weekend in terms of status. But again, you want to see your players that are coming back from injury at least have some limited participation as a positive sign. But we'll get the official word later today. And then there were a decent amount of players that were injured that continued to be limited, especially on the interior of that defensive line. So we've got defensive tackle Jordan Elliott and Kevin Givens, who are both limited for a second straight day. Again, that's a sign in the positive direction that they'll hopefully be available for Sunday's game. Same thing with safety Talanoa Hufanga, linebacker D. Winters, and cornerback Isaac Yiadom. So more to come later today on the injury front.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. And Dani, who's on the watch list for the Cardinals entering Sunday's contest?
Well, the good news for the Cardinals, at least, is that tight end Trey McBride is expected to return. He has cleared concussion protocol after missing last week's game against the Commanders, suffering a concussion the week prior against the Lions. That's a huge gain for the Cardinals offense, especially as it seems quarterback Kyler Murray is still working with some communication and chemistry, things that they're working through with his wide receivers. So to get a security blanket and Trey McBride back is going to be a big time for this Cardinals offense. Cornerback Garrett Williams is likely to miss the game on Sunday. He has missed all week of practice with a groin injury, dealing with some soreness. So that's a loss to the Cardinals secondary, losing their slot corner. He had a really nice interception the week prior off quarterback Jane Daniels with Washington. The Cardinals do have options. They have plenty of DBs who have experience at the slot corner. So it's just a matter of which piece of the puzzle they want to kind of move around to fill in that role. So that is an unfortunate loss for the Cardinals defense this week. And another player to keep an eye on is kicker Matt Prater. Prater is dealing with some soreness in his left knee, so he has not been practicing this week. However, there is still a chance he's going to feel ready to go for Sunday's game. In the off chance he doesn't, the Cardinals signed kicker Chad Ryland to the practice squad and can elevate him. He was with the Patriots last season, and that was a name the Cardinals have just kind of had their eye on for the last couple of weeks as they do their due diligence, which they always do throughout the season, of just kind of keeping a short list of players in different positions. So it seems kicker Matt Prater will likely be a true game day decision on Sunday.
All right, we'll keep our eye out. But these NFC West rivalries just add another layer of competition to game days. Lindsay, how do the Niners feel about going up against a divisional opponent as they look for their first win in the NFC West? Is it a sense of urgency with the team?
Definitely. I think with the 49ers, they never take any opponent lightly and never, ever an NFC West opponent. The 49ers have seen in the last week how much a win can change where they land in the standings and what losses across the division can also do for that. They were last place in the division, now just second behind the Seattle Seahawks. So not just this game of grave importance for the 49ers, but 4 days after Sunday, they'll travel to Seattle take on the Seahawks. So this stretch of games in particular of the utmost importance, especially for how the 49ers would like to end the year. Obviously these division games have serious playoff implications that there's no way to know how it'll all shake out, but it does start in these early games. I think obviously you want to get back to that winning record. A win would mean 3-2 for the Niners. And I think they are very much treating this game with that importance. We heard head coach Kyle Shanahan talk about how, divisional opponents like get everybody's best game.
Yeah, and Dani, how is Arizona handling their current 1-3 record? What's their mindset heading into a tough matchup against a rival team?
Especially coming after the week after a loss, the way they did lose to Washington at home, I would expect this Cardinals offense to come out of the gate swinging against the 49ers. Every matchup between the 49ers and the Cardinals feels like a bloodbath. Just how physical and intense this matchup always seems to be. And unfortunately for the Cardinals, the 49ers have had their number the last couple of matchups. I will say for Arizona, they have had fast starts every game this season, all 4 games scoring touchdowns on their opening drive. I would expect to see that continue in terms of the preparedness, the energy, the focus, and the passion that they come out starting games with. It's just a matter for this team of finding a way to have that continue on into the second half of games. Teams that play under head coach Jonathan Gannon are passionate, they're physical, and they don't have any quit in them. And that's what you can say about this Cardinals team. So I think regardless of any injuries they're dealing with, regardless of the fact they're coming off a brutal loss at home to Washington or a 1-3 to start the season, is not going to get in their heads mentally and prevent them from preparing the way they need to against a really tough 49ers team.
Yeah, Lindsay, as you look ahead to Sunday against the Cardinals, you've got Kyler Murray coming into town. James Conner is coming off of a solid performance last week. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges the Niners face against this Arizona team?
I think you just named 2 of them. I know James Conner this season has already had 2 games with 100 plus rushing yards, and he's a physical runner and he's going to get his yards. I think it's going to be really important for the 49ers, especially as they deal with some bumps and bruises on the defensive line and the front 7 in general, to make sure that stopping the run happens on Sunday. And the same goes for Kyler Murray. He loves to escape the pocket. He has an incredible ability to extend plays, keep his eyes down the field, find his open guys. So again, it's going to be about being able to contain Kyler Murray, bring him down if possible. And then, I think the 49ers secondary has their work cut out for them, with Marvin Harrison Jr. now being a big offensive weapon for Kyler Murray. 3 touchdowns over the last 4 games. So certainly going to have to play lockdown defense on Sunday.
Now, Dani, I'm going to flip it over to you. Niners-Cardinals games, just like you mentioned it, are always a battle. What are some of the biggest challenges the Niners present in Week 5?
When you're looking at the defense, it's got to be the line of scrimmage and the way that your defensive tackles are able to create pressure outside of the name of having Nick Bosa next to them. So that's going to be a tough challenge for the Cardinals offensive line, is keeping Bosa and the rest of those threats at bay, keeping a clean pocket for Murray so that he has time to go through his reads and make the pass that he needs to, or use his legs if that's the case. When you're looking at the challenges for this Cardinals defense, it is honestly hard to pick one, because it's been very impressive the way that Jordan Mason has been able to essentially plug and play in without having Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. And even if you are able to eliminate the run, quarterback Brock Purdy is able to connect with his receivers and he's accurate, despite the fact that 2 of the top receivers in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk haven't even found the end zone yet. And the 49ers are still a threat when you look at them as a whole. It's going to take really elite tackling, especially on Mason, who is just a really tough tackle and a downhill runner. The fact that he's facing a stacked box of 8 or more defenders, more than any other running back at 43% of the time, and he still has 300 rushing yards after contact, is pretty telling of just how physical this game is going to be and how elite the tackling is going to have to be from this Cardinals defense.
Yep, Faithful. Now we've got some insight from both teams. There's so much to be excited for in Week 5, but That will do it for today. Dani, thank you so much for joining us. Tune into the Cardinals 49ers contest on Fox at 1:05 p.m. Pacific time this Sunday. Don't forget to subscribe to First and 10 presented by Cisco for more 49ers updates and turn on the notifications for any breaking news Move the Chains episodes. Thanks for tuning in.